Matthew Bell here. Today I wanted to talk just a little bit about the question of where you could find money if you find yourself in a difficult situation. My day job involves me sitting down with families and talking about finances with them, insurance situation and the like of this. And I ran into a situation where a gentleman was laid off from his job and his wife was laid off from her job at the same time. They actually met and worked at the same place. And so one set of circumstances affected both of them. They were in a position of servicing a company with union workers, and the union workers were on strike, and so the company suspended the contract that it had with both this particular guy and his wife. But there could be any number of reasons why a person might find themselves in the position of needing some extra cash, some extra money. But I think it would be worthwhile at least thinking in the first place about what the reason is that you do need extra money. So there can be any number of situations that arise, but I'm going to kind of think about it in terms of two different situations. One would be that you have a purchase that you want to make or that you need to make, and there is an obvious difference between wanting to make it and needing to make it. And I would just say the first exercise you should go through if you find yourself needing money is to ask yourself whether or not the thing you need the money for is actually something you need money for. Do you really need to spend money on a particular thing? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know the answer to that. But before you stress yourself out or overextend yourself, or in some other way try to leverage yourself into a position possibly at a disadvantage, might be worth at least reconsidering the purchase that you're making. But the other situation is an employment situation, and again, this is exactly what this gentleman and his wife found themselves in the position of having to deal with. There can be any number of reasons why there can be an employment problem. It could be due to what's called downsizing, obviously a reduction in the workforce from a company. These are terms that we're getting all too familiar with, unfortunately. Maybe the company is in receivership, or they're restructuring, or they're doing whatever. It could be just due to layoffs, trying to improve the corporate bottom line by reducing the workforce in that respect. Or it could be due to outsourcing, or that is to say a company deciding to use workers in a foreign country, possibly because they can be obtained at a lower rate. They can be paid less, maybe they don't need to be paid benefits, maybe the working conditions are not scrutinized as much, hopefully not that, but or possibly strikes, and this is the kind of thing that was in view in the case that I just sketched. So what can you do if you find yourself in the position of needing to make a purchase or of having some kind of employment difficulty? Well, the first thing that popped into my head, and I thought I would just get it out of the way, would be gambling. I'm not recommending this, certainly, and I have no particular expertise in any of this. It's just simply me thinking through some of these issues and, again, bumping into this both professionally and personally and trying to plan ahead in case something were to occur in my own life, I guess. But gambling has certain appeal to it. The idea that you can just buy a lottery ticket or put everything down on black at the casino and possibly walk out flush is appealing. But at the same time, we understand. Somebody said one time that the lottery is just a tax on people who are bad at math. And you should also bear in mind that casinos are fancy and brightly lit and lavishly decorated, usually as an indication of the money that they have. And you can bet that, no pun intended, that they didn't get that money by paying it out all the time. So generally speaking, the house will eventually win. So I'm not so sure that gambling is the best strategy for trying to raise money. I'm going to break my tips into three basic categories. The first I'm going to call kind of traditional tips that have been around for a while. The second category is going to be what I'm calling technological-based tips that maybe haven't been around for a while. Now, they're going to kind of dovetail because traditional tips have been modified and in some ways improved, or at least changed a bit in virtue of technology. But in addition, some of the technology advice is going to harken back to the traditional. And then the third is just going to be the third category, sort of miscellaneous things that occurred to me just to add on at the end. So traditionally speaking, ways to get money, number one way would just be to borrow it. You could get a cash advance, possibly, or some kind of a loan. And this loan could be from a bank. It could be from your credit card. It could be from a family member. It could be from a 401k or other retirement vehicle. You might take a loan out from friends. You might take a loan against the equity in your house, a home equity loan. You can loan against cash value in a life insurance policy. You can take a payday loan, which again is like an advance on your paycheck. They'll give you cash, and then when you get your paycheck, they'll take it back plus interest. And there is also a thing called a title loan. Now, borrowing it is attractive because you don't have to do anything for it, but it's disadvantageous in a number of ways, in particular the amount of interest that you can expect to pay. That's the primary thing. None of these loans is, generally speaking, interest-free. Now, I should say the caveat there would be friends and family-based loans. They may just give you a loan to spot you a certain amount of money to get you through a tough time and then just have you pay that money back. If you have the ability of borrowing money from family or friends, from your standpoint, it's probably advantageous to do it because it is likely that you're going to get a better interest or loaning rate than you would get from any of these other places. The more desperate you are, the worse your rate is going to be. The more in need of money you are, the worse your rate is going to be if you can even get a loan at all. Be extremely careful here. Loaning against the value of your retirement account can put you at a severe disadvantage in terms of retirement planning. It can get you more deeply in debt in credit cards. The interest rate, again, from payday or check cashing places can be just ridiculously high. In some places it can literally be triple-digit interest rates. It's almost scandalous. A title loan is also a difficulty. In some states, I believe these title loans are no longer even legal. The idea would be that you would use something like your car, and then your car would become collateral. But you should be aware that if you default on a loan like that, since it's considered mostly a secured loan, you could lose your car or your boat or whatever it is that you're pledging the title to in order to get the money. So once again, revisit what the money is needed for and maybe reevaluate things on a broader scale. Besides borrowing it, you could earn it. So borrowing it, now earning it. Number one, you could get a better job. Now this might not issue in an immediate reward, but if you start a job that you get paid in 2 weeks, you might be able to get a better job than the one that you have now and still be able to come up with some fairly quick cash. You could get a part-time job. Now this could be doing any of a number of things. It could be doing chores, you could be doing day labor, you could be doing random tasks or odd jobs for people. There are so many different options in this category, I can't hope to list them all specifically. I would tell you to do an inventory of skills that you think you have or jobs that you're willing to do, and then try to explore your options in terms of people who are willing to pay for those services. Now, there are technological aspects to this. There are many different websites now that tend to have the ability of advertising for these kinds of jobs, whether you're the person who's looking for work or you're a person who is trying to have a job completed. Let me say one other thing on lending. There is something now called peer-to-peer lending, and it's not that this is brand new, but because of technology, it's been made more accessible. In peer-to-peer lending, essentially, you would be borrowing from somebody else, there would be an interest rate, and there are websites that actually facilitate this. So a few websites you might visit if you're interested in trying to find quick work as part-time or day labor. LaborWorks is one, People Ready is another, and then the third for odd jobs is TaskRabbit. And by the way, in the description, I'm going to have a link to a webpage where I have compiled some of these links for you, and you can have kind of a one-stop shop that's both a summary of what I am talking about here as well as a quick reference guide for some of these links if you're interested. Another category that's popular is sitting, and here I mean, babysitting and house sitting, pet sitting, and this could be for cats or dogs or any of a number of other different animals and companions. Dog walking is also something that, in doing research for this, it seems people pay for. You could teach or tutor in some relevant area, and this again is going to be dependent on what your skill set is. Maybe you're good at computer skills, and you could teach computer skills to somebody who may need a remedial class, or in some cases senior citizens are looking to take classes on how to do basic computer tasks, and for a lot of, let's say, millennials who've grown up around computers, for them to teach basic computer skills is not too difficult a thing, and they wouldn't require any kind of excessive or elaborate education. Just simply understanding how to do the basic functions is enough to be able to make some money for them. Maybe you have language skills or music skills. Another one would be teaching sports or athletics. A corollary to that would be to try to get a job as a coach. For people who understand the rules of various games, getting a job as a referee or an umpire can also be an effective way to quickly make some money. There are people who, that you find at various sports complexes or parks, that the fields are rented out one right after the other, and many times, at least for certain events, they're short on referees and umpires. You may also be skilled at writing or proofreading or copy editing, and these are skills that are in demand. You can find job listings on college bulletin boards and other places like this. But again, here's a place where technology has also modified the way in which work is sought out. Websites like Craigslist, LinkedIn, Indeed.com, Fiverr, and Upwork offer many ads for people who might be looking for copy editors, writers, proofreaders, and this kind of thing. There are also specific sites that are geared towards writing and copy editing, and that these would include places like Hire Writers, iWriter, and TextBroker. In terms of sitting, there are a number of different websites. House Sitters is one. Mind My House is another. And Care.com is kind of a grab bag site that includes jobs for various kinds of sitting, from, again, dog sitting all the way up through babysitting and house sitting. So we talked about borrowing money, earning money, and then the third category in this traditional block would be just raising it some other way, raising money some other way. Maybe that's recycling. Maybe you can collect cans or scrap metals, glass, plastic, and these kinds of things, and either send them into a reclamation facility, or possibly, and down in the technology area, we'll talk a little bit more about being able to sell these on websites like Craigslist or eBay. Another idea here would be flipping or reselling items, and that can be a number of items can be flipped or resold in this way. Perhaps you go to a clearance rack at a store and you find clearance items and then discover that you're able to sell them at a higher price on eBay, for instance. Or maybe you sell them at a garage sale, or buy items at a garage sale and then flip them in some way. Again, this is going to have a number of different tie-ins to websites like Craigslist and eBay. I've even seen articles where people have been able to flip money. They'll purchase dollar bills, from a bank. They'll just simply take 100 and get 100 ones, and if they get some kind of money that may have dates on there that are a little bit older than the currency that's in normal circulation, they will simply post an ad to this and try and sell their dollar bill for $1.50 or $2. And sometimes it works. Flipping can get into much more expensive items. You can flip appliances, you can flip cars, boats, and of course people flip houses. This is not necessarily the quickest money. There can be money in it, but you have to know what you're doing. A final thing in this category would be giving blood plasma. Now, giving blood plasma kind of spooks some people, but there are blood facilities that are willing to pay for it. Normal blood donations are normally not paid for, but blood plasma is a specific thing. There's specific needs for it, and often blood centers will pay for plasma donations. Now, those are kind of traditional ideas. Some ideas have become a thing because of technology, because of the advances in computers and the internet and its pervasiveness. But again, it's going to be some similar things. So just like you could earn it traditionally by getting a day job or getting a part-time job, in this case, just like you could earn it traditionally by becoming a day laborer or getting a part-time job, you can also earn it in a more sort of technological way by doing a few things as well. Number one would be to drive for things like Uber and Lyft. Now, driving, of course, is not anything new, but the ability to drive for Uber and Lyft is made possible because of apps and mobile phones. You could also do things like deliver food items and other things. DoorDash, Dorman, Grubhub, and Uber Eats are all apps or online outlets that help to connect a person who is ordering a particular food with the food item. Then there are sort of grab-all websites like Fiverr and Upwork. These have numerous odd jobs and other kinds of things to post. I would invite you to search those websites and just see if there's an area that you think you could provide a service and then create a listing for yourself. Again, it's going to fall back on what you are able to do, what your skill sets are, might start with a little bit of self-reflection there to try to determine what you might be able to market. Surveys are another one. This one is kind of a slow go for a lot of people. To fill out online surveys and other things can be worth a few bucks. There are websites like Earning Station, Inbox Dollars, Pinecone Research, Survey Junkie, and Swagbucks. Another YouTuber by the name of Ryan Scribner actually has a video that he goes through and asks the question, can you really make money doing online surveys? And it's somewhat instructive. If this appeals to you, I'd invite you to check that video out as well. The third category here under technology would just be to sell things. This is, again, going to be similar to selling at a garage sale or something, but the difference would be you're selling it online. And this is going to be places like on Craigslist, on eBay. Those would be the two primary ones, but certainly not the only. Etsy is another. This would be the equivalent of selling something at a garage sale, at a pawn shop, at a junkyard, and you can sell all kinds of stuff, from valuables, things that are unused in your house, maybe items that you have gotten some use out of, but they're still good to sell. And in other cases, you can sell things that are flat broken. People sell cars sometimes that are inoperable, and the idea there is somebody may pay a small amount to obtain that car because that person may, in his or her spare time, work on that car as a side project and fix it up, and then end up with a drivable car. So don't hesitate to put on listings things that even you think might not sell. If you put them on there at a price that you are willing to take, and you find a buyer, then you might end up with a few extra bucks. You can sell recyclables, aluminum, and other things, scrap glass, metal, plastic, scrap wood. Some people even sell box tops. There are schools and other organizations that collect these things for charitable purposes and other things. And if you collect them, maybe you don't have any affiliation with any school that needs box tops, but other people might, and they're willing to pay, apparently, for access to these. You could sell your junk around the house. Some people sell junk batteries, junk mail, junk ink cartridges, toilet paper rolls. No kidding. Crafters use these things, and crafters also apparently are in the market for things like wine corks, wine bottles, again, glass mirrors, things that they would be able to use in various crafting projects, but that would cost them more money to buy at a retail store. You could sell old appliances, old vehicles, as we just discussed. It can be very fruitful to sort of survey your landscape in your home and in your garage and maybe see if there is something that you can sell. Now, you should bear in mind, for instance, in taking something to a pawn shop or selling something on eBay, people are looking to buy something at a value typically, unless you have brand new items and you're selling in a retailing space. Mostly people are looking to buy at a discount, which means, especially if you think about the pawn shop, just to kind of give you a fix on this, if you take an item that's worth $100 into a pawn shop, the pawn shop is not going to be able to sell that item for $100. People going into a pawn shop are going to be looking to spend $50 on that item. So the pawn shop might give you $25. So if you have an item that is originally a $100 item, you might get a quarter of its value at a pawn shop or something around that. Now, there's no fixed amount. I'm sure it depends on the item, the condition of the item, and the market for that item, but bear in mind that you will take a loss by selling your items. It's a good general rule that the person who is in more need of the deal going through is at a disadvantage in terms of the price. The final category, basically, that I did traditional, I did more technological, and then the third category basically is just miscellaneous. Here, there's something that we might have considered up front, and that is that if you have put yourself in a financial difficulty by buying something, you could consider simply returning the item. You might have a window of time, different items, the window is going to be different. Maybe it's up to 30 days, 15 days, 2 weeks, couple of days, couple of hours, 24 hours maybe, depending on the product and depending on the place that you purchased it from. But it might be worth just returning the product and getting money back from it rather than going on a quest for finding additional money to pay for something that maybe you didn't need. You could consider renting certain items instead of purchasing them. So if you need a tool for a particular job, maybe renting it might cost you $15-30, whereas buying it might cost you $500. There's an interesting thing that I have looked into a little bit, that's car advertising, and there are a couple companies. Carvertise is one, Rapify is another. And in markets where these are well known or well established, apparently some people can do fairly well. The idea would be if you have a clean looking car and you allow a company to basically put an advertisement on there, then you will get paid just for driving your car around. It's very appealing to some people, not everyone. Depends on the condition of your car, but it also, I'm finding, depends on the market. So not every market is equal. And when I looked into this a little bit, it just seems like where I am geographically, not a whole lot of market for this, so don't get your hopes up. You might also look at sign-up bonuses for things like opening a bank account or a charge card, credit card. Sometimes sign-up bonuses can be worth some money to you. Now, sometimes with sign-up bonuses, you don't get the money right away. You have to keep a balance in let's say, a bank account, and maybe you get the sign-up bonus at the end of a few months or even a year. And a final category here would be with respect to doing things online, whether it would be advising people. Sometimes you can set up webcam consultations. Some people do webcam modeling. Some of these things can get a little bit risque, but in terms of quick cash, depending on what you're willing to do, depending on what your skill set is, and the like of this, it might be an avenue that is worth exploring. Or you could put it all on black. Hopefully not. There's probably better, more reliable ways to make money. But I hope if something I said was of value to you or of use to you, that you would like the video, subscribe. In the description, again, I will have a link to an article where I summarize some of the things that I've said here, as well as give you, as I said, a quick reference guide to some of the links and some of the different outlets that we've discussed today. Thank you so much, and I hope you get the money you need.